Lesson 2.8, literal equations. Our essential question is, how do you solve a literal equation? So our vocab word is literal equation. What a literal equation is an equation with multiple variables in it. An example of a literal equation would be a formula. Any formulas that you've seen in math class or in science class would apply. Those are literal equations. So like maybe you saw a formula like area equals length times width, or area equals pi r squared, or maybe E equals mc squared. Any formula or any equation that has more than one variable in it could be considered a literal equation. Why you need to learn about literal equations? Well, the main reason is for advanced math and science classes in the high school. Chemistry and physics classes in particular, I remember working with tons of literal equations. And the idea was that you could solve those equations for any one of the variables in the equation. That was very important in science class. I remember working with a formula like this in chemistry, and it was like you had to be able to solve it for the P, the V, the N, R, the T, for any of the variables. So this is something that's definitely a skill you're going to need in the future, working with literal equations. What's different is that we're used to working with equations where we've just been solving for x. So we've only had one variable and we've solved for x. Those were linear equations. Now we're going to have a lot of different variables, and we're going to learn how to use our same skills from 1, 2, 3, and multi-step equations to solve for any indicated variable. Please stick with it. We're going to start out with some easier problems, and they're going to get harder. Don't give up. We have a lot of examples for your notes because we want you to be able to go back when you're working on your homework and look at your notes to find something similar to help you out if you need the help, okay? So our first equation is A equals BH, and it says solve for B. This formula is for the area. B is base, H is height. It's for the area of a parallelogram or a rectangle. Over on the right, after the stars, it says, which problem does this look similar to? It looks similar to the second one. 15 equals negative 5x. That's a one-step equation. It's a multiplication equation, so we solved it by dividing. It's exactly what we're going to do here. To get the letter B by itself, B times H, they were being multiplied, so I can divide by H like this and cancel it out, and I've got my answer. A divided by H is equal to B. So the area divided by the height equals the base. The next one is very similar. Solve for W. V equals LWH. Volume equals length times width times height for a rectangular prism. L, W, and H are all multiplied together. The inverse of multiplying is dividing. I can divide by both L and H at the same time, like this. And that will cancel out the heights, cancel out the lengths, and my answer, volume divided by length times height, equals the width. Next up, there are two different ways you could solve this area formula for the area of a triangle. I am going to look at this equation 12 equals 2x divided by 3, and I'm going to remind you that you can solve it in 2 steps, which would mean multiplying by the 3 first, then dividing by the 2, or in 1 step you can solve it multiplying by the reciprocal. That's the one that I am going to use here. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal because I need the b by itself. I can multiply by the 2 and divide by the h at the same time. Multiply by 2, divide by h at the same time, and they're going to cancel out. So I'm essentially multiplying by the reciprocal of h over 2. I'm multiplying by 2 over h. Remember when you're multiplying by the reciprocal like this, you put a 1 under the a, multiply straight across. 2a and h times 1 is just h, so 2a divided by h equals our base. If you don't like multiplying by the reciprocal, you could certainly do 2 steps. Like over here where I said you could multiply by 3 first and then divide by 2 on each side, and that will give you the same result. All right, now we've got a 2-step equation, so I am going to circle this bottom one. It's similar to the bottom one here. So you may recall that we left the 5x together on the first step. Those are like your best friends. They stay together till the end. And we subtracted this 2 to start out on both sides. So I am going to be subtracting on this problem. These are the friends that are going to stay together till the end. So I'm going to subtract the 2L on both sides. When I do that, the letter P and the letter L, they're different letters. They're not like terms. So I cannot combine those together. I just simply keep them P minus 2L like this, kind of like writing them side by side. Then I can bring down my 2W, and to get the W by itself, I divide both sides by 2, and I've got my answer. P minus 2L, all divided by 2, is equal to W. This formula, P is perimeter, and L and W are length and width. So it's the perimeter of a rectangle, and perimeter is when you add together all of the sides. So you have 2 lengths plus 2 widths. The next one. This problem looks tricky because it has parentheses. You probably look at it and you want to distribute, but we're not going to distribute. We're solving for x. So I want you to recognize where the x is. It's being multiplied by w minus 13. So it's really just like this top equation here. 12 equals 3x. We would divide both sides by 3 because that's what's being multiplied by the x. So we're just going to divide by the w minus 13 because it's being multiplied by the x. Instead of multiplying, we divide to cancel it out. So those are gone. So then our answer is v divided by w minus 13 equals x. So what looked really complicated on this one actually is just a one-step division equation. Just one step. All right, this next one, we've got a big fraction. So I'm going to go over here and circle the third one down, the big fraction. Remember on this big fraction, we got rid of the denominator first. So we multiplied by 5 first to get rid of that denominator. So that's exactly what I'm going to do with this one. I am going to multiply by the 5 on both sides so that it's not a fraction anymore. So k minus 2 equals 11j times 5 is 55j. Then to get the k by itself, I just need to add 2, the inverse of subtracting 2. So k equals 55j plus 2. They stay separate because they are not like terms. One has a j on it and the other one doesn't. So that's my final answer. So you should probably be noticing that these answers don't look really nice. They're not x equals 2 or y equals negative 5. These answers still have all of those variables that started in the problem. They're still in the answer. They are. So it's not that we're really simplifying very much at all. We're just solving for a different variable, isolating a different variable. All right, this next one. Ignoring this extra little minus here, the second equation down is the one that we want to work with. So I'm going to leave this 2/3 x alone until the end. I'm going to subtract the v. Plus v, the inverse is minus v. So 2/3 x equals, side by side, w minus v. Remember, they're not like terms, so they don't cancel each other out. Now, my next step, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal to cancel out the fraction. And when I do this on the right-hand side, multiplying by 3 halves, my reciprocal is 3 halves, I have to put parentheses around the w minus v because you're really multiplying the whole thing by 3/2, not just the v or just the w. So x equals 3/2 times w minus v. If you wanted to distribute it, you could, but I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it like that. All right. Now, our last example, I'm pretty sure, solve for x, 8x plus 11v equals w minus 13x. The bottom equation is the one that I want you to take a look at. Remember that when we're solving for a variable, we're trying to isolate it, get it by itself, we can't see it twice then. So on this one over here, we would have subtracted the plane 1x so that it would give us 5 equals 2x plus 10, and then we'd keep solving to get the x by itself. So basically we need the variable we're solving for, we've got to put that on the same side and everything else on the other side. So I am going to add 13x to cancel it out, and that will give me 21x plus 11v equals w. And we're trying to get the x by itself, so this is going to be my best friends that have to stay together. So I will subtract the 11v on both sides to get rid of it. So 21x equals w minus 11v. They're not like terms, so keep them side by side, and then divide both sides by 21. So x equals w minus 11v, all divided by 21. All right, you should be able to write your summary now. And remember, do not give up when you are working on these problems. They can be very challenging, but they're very important in the end for further math and science classes. Make sure your summary has the essential question restated and use complete sentences.